My name is Clare Wilkins. I'm director of Pangea Biomedics. We're an integrative clinic located in Mexico, in Nayarit. And I'm going to talk about the architecture of emergency and using psychedelics during the Anthropocene era. If anybody is unaware of what the Anthropocene era is, it's where we are now, where we're in the next level of mass extinction, where we've basically lost about 50% of our wildlife as a result of human activity. And that somehow coordinates with what I'm going to speak about. And how we treat people taking psychedelics and how people taking psychedelics treat themselves in a sense of emergency and how emergencies arise from that approach. Specifically, I'll make references to Ibogaine because that's my specialty and what I've studied for 14 years. And, kind of go sideways here and there. And at the end, I'd definitely like to leave time for questions and answers. So it's not all about me. I got my mind with me 24 hours a day. So originally, when Ibogaine was first administered in the 90s and 2000s, it was a several-day period in which someone would take a large dose, arrive in withdrawal from whatever substance that they were wishing to shed their dependency from, receive a large dose, and usually most of the withdrawals would disappear by the next day, maybe perhaps get a little supplemental dose within a day or two, and that was it. And it was considered a rapid detox, and it was quite miraculous in nature. And there's over 200, published journal articles regarding Ibogaine, yet because of various reasons, the FDA never got, and NIDA never got to the point of clinical trials in the United States, and it's Schedule I in the United States, amongst several other countries, including Italy, France, Switzerland. So when I arrived into the realm of Ibogaine, I arrived into that dosing structure, and that's how I was treated. I was a former intravenous user of heroin and then a methadone-dependent patient, and I was treated the way it was normally administered. And usually people would hear about seeing, kind of like having a near-death experience, and Ibogaine lowers the heart rate, induces bradycardia, lowers blood pressure, and you ride that gray area between life and death. And many people say they see the area of beyond, they see the area of dead people, they connect with ancestors, and in Africa it's used as a rite of passage to connect with their ancestors and not as an OxyContin treatment. Nowadays, there are neo-Buddhists and neo-African treatment providers who utilize Ibogaine in a shamanic way, even though it is a medical process. And I really want to underscore that. The subject of medicalization and shamanism and self-administration, how we use psychedelics, is really big. And I, as a board member of GITA, the Global Ibogaine Therapy Alliance, receive a lot of complaints and a lot of negative feedback and scary stories about people stuck post-treatment as a result of being run through quickly. And you can take the most impatient population on the planet and then give them a peak experience and then send them on their way to live that life after 1 or 2 or 3 nights of understanding themselves and the world automatically. And so, there are risk factors. Ibogaine has several. From the adverse events come from its heart cardio-stimulating factors, and the fatalities have been a result of undiagnosed or unscreened heart conditions, or also another drug or medication in the system that was unaware of to the clinician or hidden by the patient, as Ibogaine potentiates whatever is in you, even a cup of coffee. So we saw a need for changes. We saw persistent withdrawal symptoms, like cravings continuing. People it doesn't feel done. I'm home. I saw a crack pipe in my bathrobe and I used it. Unresolved trauma is a really big thing. How are you going to resolve trauma in 3 to 5 days? And there was this myth. And I talk about the demythologizing of Ibogaine, that you're not going to get necessarily 10 to 20 years of therapy in one night. Okay? So ease up on thinking that. You're going to get a lot processed if you have the intention and if you have a really great person working with you beforehand to prepare you and afterwards to, integrate that process. Yet trauma, as Paul Levy likes to call the unexperienced experience, still needs to be experienced. The beauty of Ibogaine, the beauty of there are quite a few psychedelics where you're able to witness yourself and witness your life from even a millimeter away. And from that distance, you can see yourself and see the parts of your mind that the mind and the ego has arranged for you not to see. So how do we do that and teach people that in 3 to 5 days? So we started extending our time. I'm not sure if anyone is aware, but adverse drug reactions kill 5 times as many people as all the illegal drugs combined. Can we just acknowledge that right now? Okay, so that's called iatrogenesis, when a medicine fucks you over. So no profound shifts were being incorporated into daily life for certain people. They'd have a peak experience and then call that, I need to come back and do a flood again. And it's called a flood. That's a natural disaster. A tsunami is a natural disaster. A flood is a flood of Ibogaine is a natural disaster. Why would I want to be involved in giving a natural disaster, being a part of a team that provided a natural disaster-like quality to someone that had already been through so many natural disasters, probably since birth? And so that really touched me because, of course, I'm looking through the lens as someone who'd been a really heavy user for 15 years and come from a long line of people who hurt themselves in various ways. And so transforming from the extraordinary to the ordinary, how do we facilitate that for this impatient demographic where in a couple nights or in a week or two, you get to a parasympathetic state after being in flight or fight mode, and you get into a parasympathetic state where people meditate for 40 years to get to, what do you tell those people? You got a guidebook? You got there are a few aftercare, they're called. Here, there is a volunteer, and her name is Lindsay Michelle, and she's volunteering for a Root Recovery Home, and she's created an retreat, and there are around the world retreats for people post-Ibogaine, because within the Ibogaine world, and there are certain ayahuasca retreats that incorporate integration into their treatment, and certain peyote ceremony, but it's things are fucking a la carte. Let's put the menu together. So what do we do about this? Instead of babble, studies, Howard Lotsoff, who discovered the anti-addictive effects of Ibogaine by accident and went on and pursued it for his lifetime and was also on the board of the National Advisory for Methadone Advocacy. So harm reduction, Carl Hart, Ibogaine, getting people off drugs or lowering drugs. It's this beautiful rainbow that I was introduced to that I never even knew existed. I just heard fuck up junkie or clean. That's how I was raised. I'm sure a bunch of others. So starting studies. And we started with Rick doing an observational study, and I'll never forget. Rick, are you here? Is Rick here? Okay, well, I'll tell a story about Rick. And my goal was, when I started, I created Pangea after I was treated in an Ibogaine clinic that was whatever it was. And so I decided to volunteer and then create a whole new team and uplift. And we created Pangea, which is the name of the continents before they all separated. in Earth. And so I created Pangea with a team of 12 in Tijuana, and I went to Burning Man, and I didn't even know who Alex Gray was, okay? Like, I didn't know anything after I came out of my Ibogaine experience. And so I went to Burning Man to meet Rick Doblin, like packed the whole bag and did the whole like vinegar for your feet and the whole whatever, and to go meet Rick, and he was always surrounded by people to start study again, an observational study, something with Ibogaine. And I finally found him, or a friend found him, and we were in the showers, and I was naked, and I was like, oh my God, no, please, 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 God, no. And he said, hey, no, show us my friend Clare. And I'm like, oh. And he goes, how about you come tonight to the sanctuary, and we talk about a study. And I just want to thank you, Rick, for looking at me in the eyes. And I want to tell everybody to believe in your dreams, because we now have a phase 1 efficacy up to phase 2 safety and efficacy trial starting with humans, Ibogaine 4-methadone starting in Spain, collaborating with ICER. So from 13 years ago, believe in the impossible, even if it involves being naked in the shower, and someone you don't think should be. So here are some transitions that occur in treatment, in working with psychedelics. I received more insight from my inner voice once I waded through all the other voices in my mind that had essentially been running my life until now. I learned I'm the ultimate expert in me. I govern my own continent. Someone else said, I see now that a plant, a lizard, and a tiny insect I would have not even noticed, or I would have killed without thought, have as much important wisdom on this planet as my erroneous belief that only humans were capable of carrying. This is powerful stuff. Like, I get goose flesh when people give me this kind of transmission. So there's the clinical, there's the shamanic, there's the underground, and there are the combinations thereof. And like, how do we manage that? You know, for us, we're an integrative clinic that operates globally. I mean, whomever we can bring in and collaborate with, and whoever wants to join us, we welcome. We're not really that into people who just took Ibogaine wanting to jump into the staff, you know? Like, that's kind of a common thing. Like, and it's okay. Yet, if you just got your teeth worked on and you wanted to go and volunteer at the dentist, that dentist that let you do that, I'd kind of worry about. Learning and behavior. Psychedelics require active participation. You don't just lie down, get them thrown in your gullet. And that's what was happening with Ibogaine that I saw. People were relying on Ibogaine, or the provider, oh, he does great work, or she's a fucking great shit, oh, what a shaman. Where the medicine and the facilitator are not given the higher authority. Rather, the body and the body's behavior is the teacher and the true guide. And that's our philosophy at Pangea. You teach us. You come to us, what do you want? You want to not be on heroin? You want to still drink? You want to do this for some introspection? I don't have an agenda. I got my own life. Like, how could I have an agenda for like tons and millions of people? And as you come along, how could I tell you to give up sugar when that's one of your favorite treats in the world? How could I tell you to give up your anti-anxiety medication just to be off medication? So personal experimentation, self-administration versus guidance, it's a big theme. We receive most of our emergency calls regarding self-administration. What do we want to do about that? There's a lot of stress involved in taking these medicines, especially with Ibogaine, and now there's a huge wave with 5-MeO, and I'm getting a lot of calls of people who are in crisis afterwards. And they have their own code of ethics and code of conduct and things like that. And yet, what's pulling us all together aside from MAPS, really? You know? And MAPS is just starting its patient advocacy program. Like, Geeta started its patient advocacy program years ago based on Howard Lotsoff's Patient Bill of Rights. You're allowed to this, you're allowed to know this, you need to know, like, putting the person first. This is their life. This is their marriage to themselves. This is them falling in love with themselves. This is them letting go of what doesn't pertain. And so how do we do that as a group? I'm asking questions so we can get to the Q&A and you guys can maybe have some answers too. So with Ibogaine, we noticed that there was a total alkaloid rather than just the hydrochloride, and had modulating alkaloids, like, for example, coca and cocaine. If a little child ate a leaf of coca, that little child would still be that little child and not really a big deal, or a cup of tea. But if a little child had a line of Coke, that'd be a whole different story, right? That's one alkaloid versus many alkaloids in the plant. And so that's what we noticed, that Ibogaine was one alkaloid out of many in a plant, and we started working more towards the whole plant. And what did the whole plant have to give? Peyote has over 50 alkaloids. As the gentleman was speaking about before, it's not just mescaline. And Americans want to make that white powder, man, you know, purify it. Right? And so getting into the whole plant, like, and actually studying it with ECGs and medically, the whole plant, like, oh, wow, this actually has modulating factors. Wow. And actually getting a lot of shit from my colleagues. Oh, what are you doing with that? That's okay. Because I'd really like to thank all the people that have supported us, you know, MAPS, ICEERS, Chakruna, Bia Labate, there's just so many, the Women's Visionary Congress. But I most of all want to thank the people that don't believe it, haven't believed in me or us, because that inspires me the most. And for you guys, everybody who just says, no, you know, yeah, that sounds just too weird, just like, you know, thank them. Thank them. So what other, these psychedelics that can result in mania, insomnia, spiritual breaks, you know, like bufalvaris I was telling you about, like, we use orthomolecular medicine a lot. And it's a big part of pre-care, during care, post-care, and like bringing people down when we get the mania calls and all of that. And that's what adaptogens are. They modulate the body so you can have homeostasis. And isn't that all what we're looking for? Just to fucking feel good in our bodies? Excuse my, I swore I wouldn't swear. And I think it's already 3 times. So, information sharing. What are we doing? Let's get this out in the open. Like, you know, like, instead of competing, there's a lot of competition in the Ibogaine world, and I imagine so in the ayahuasca world, and, you know, it seems much less with, you know, MDMA and MAPS and the people working in research, of course, but even still, I see a little bit of that too with certain scientists. Ken Alper and MindMed are doing an 18MC study, which is a congener of Ibogaine. It is an analog to Ibogaine. And so looking at new things, not being so prone to like plant only. Like 5-MeO synthetic is actually safer than bufalvaris with the extra cardiotoxins. Like starting to look at this stuff and get serious. Like, what are the mechanisms of action? Is this really a 15-minute drug? Something that is a God molecule that changes your life? So having more adjunct medicines and therapies that are trauma-informed, using inquiry, continuing, like it's not just over, here's your receipt, aloha, you know. Exercise is something that's so incredible and sounds so boring, diet and exercise, and I call it making your own heroin. Like runner's high, is that real, right? Yeah, so I watch people who are on couch lock start moving and counting their steps on the Fitbit, and then they're like, oh my God, and it's inside. And you watch them like tripping out that they're so powerful inside. You know? It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing. Our own endogenous drug system. Yeah. So the community, the new forms of family, and psychedelic hotlines, like 911 is a joke, I think was a song once. Like, how about a psychedelic 911 that's not a joke? My last little quote, and that's to see where I live and where our people come. The heart breaks and it breaks until it stays open. That's a Sufi poet. And it's something that's always touched me because we go through so much heartbreak. There's so many people who die, suicide, go to jail for this work that we're doing to liberate. And my heart breaks a lot, but I'm hoping it just stays open. I have time for questions? Did I do 20 minutes? We have time for questions? We got time for questions. Yeah. I can't see that well, so I'm sorry. How do you make your own heroin? You move, baby. Vegas breathing's also pretty amazing. It's incredible to me that I didn't learn how to breathe consciously till I was 35 years old. And that there's a whole nerve that governs our central nervous system. Like, how come I learned that instead of algebra? Yeah. Anybody else?
What kind of screening do you do for your
Okay.
What kind of screening do you do before people take Iboga or Ibogaine?
For ourselves, for our clinic? Well, there's ECG, 12-lead ECG. I mean, you can go, I'd rather make this short, and you can go to the Gita website, which is www.ibogainealliance.org, and the Ibogaine clinical guidelines are on there, which I co-authored, and all the screening, interventions, and everything is on there. But we are extremely selective. We don't bring in people. We work with the organism. We work with the family. If the partner doesn't come down, we include them via Skype. You can't treat just an arm on a body, So we bring the whole family together to get this work done, a family at a time, rather than how many people can we roll through here per week, We're really working on changing the family dynamic. Our family has all eaten Ibogaine, including my dad when he was 74. He's 82 now, and has a new girlfriend. And my mom for her 60th birthday, and my sister and my brother, and our whole. I thought I was going to be a certain way. I was, 179 pounds, 15 years ago, and stuck to methadone, and I just thought my life was going to be a certain way. So that's my answer to your question. Sorry.
Hi. Thank you for all your work. I just wanted to ask you a question about how to reduce metabolic stress. I'm wondering, have you guys looked into an adjunct therapy like ketogenic diet where, for bipolar people with bipolar depression, they're able to use the endogenous ketones within their body, either induced by nutrition or fasting, and to pair that with, it replaces the anti-seizure, anti-convulsant medications.
Your question about ketogenic diet?
Yeah, I'm wondering if that would be a good
which diet do we use?
Adjunct for metabolic therapy.
Our diet is mostly plant-based, actually. We find that people are too acidic when they arrive. And if they want to choose to go on a ketogenic diet before and after, they're welcome to. But while they're with us, it's no coffee, no red meat, unless required. They're people who are, we take some time to actually do some teaching around food and changing the palate, because most people arrive really acidic. In regards to the ketogenic diet, that's their choice afterwards. While they're with us, most people have never eaten the way they eat when they're with us and end up changing their diets for life. Some are ketogenic, some are paleo, some are vegan, but that's one of the major changes that actually occurs while with us, actually. People who've never even had an avocado, become growing alfalfa and stuff, so.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Athena, and I'm a student nurse from Colorado. One of the concerns that I've seen in the clinical setting thus far is moms on methadone post-pregnancy and after birth. And I kind of want to examine the relationship that Ibogaine could have post-pregnancy with things such as postpartum depression. Is it excreted in the breast milk?
Post-birth or during pregnancy?
Post-birth and also during pregnancy. I know those studies are probably able to not be completed right now.
In Africa, so you know, everybody eats wood. Dogs, babies, kids, adults, like the iboga wood is like the way people drink ayahuasca very commonly in, the Amazon. It's part of the diet. I drink ayahuasca, And so as far as modern day life and people using modern medicines like methadone, I would say that Ibogaine is safer than coffee for a pregnant woman in low doses, but you've got a lot to consider. So I don't want to get up here and promote anything in regard to pregnancy and drug dependency and how to taper off but yes, we have dealt with, the thing is with Ibogaine, we usually deal with a lot of people getting pregnant after Ibogaine because it repairs the endocrine system. And so there are a lot of Iboga babies. We see a lot more of that than we do the issue you're talking about, yet it is crucial. And there's so much taboo against it that women we see are encouraged to stay on antidepressants, they're encouraged to stay on methadone, they're encouraged to stay on various things that actually hurt them and the child while they're on it. And we've seen a woman who we helped get off antidepressants who was told to stay on them while with their child, and one child was born without an anus and one with a vascular. I mean, just like, you can, there are civil trials. And so with methadone, they're lawyered up really well. So, and it's just too, you can't work with I got 1.5 minutes here. So, but with methadone, it's a tough one. Post-pregnancy, yes. And then in the milk, I would say it's okay. They do it in Africa. They've been doing it for years. And so I would say instead of ibogaine hydrochloride, which is, like the cocaine of the coca, the iboga wood, that would be my, we can talk later if you want, if you have someone specific.
Hi.
Hi.
Earlier you were talking about dosing protocols. You mentioned flooding, and that does sound like a natural disaster, but you also had versus sort of a stepwise dosing. So have you shifted up dosing protocols from having just one large dose, you go through the whole 3-day cracking open the skull experience, et cetera, to more of a stepwise gentle raise, or how does that work now?
Yeah, it's a gentle increase as you decrease on your opiates. If you're on stimulants, whatever, you just stop taking stimulants. But it's basically keeping a cushion in there with the morphine, and then bringing the Ibogaine up each day. And then each day you need less and less morphine because the Ibogaine potentiates the morphine. And it's a gentle way of saying, hello, friend. Hello. I think Carl was talking about something earlier about the introduction and the go slow, get in there like that. And that's how we work with Ibogaine, because if you're slammed with it, we would have people the next day going, I don't remember anything. All I saw was fish laughing, and each day as you increase, you get, in our treatments, usually 2 to 3 floods. Saturations, we call it, when your whole body is saturated with Ibogaine and you're glowing, It's just, oh, Clare doesn't flood, Pangea doesn't flood. Not true. We just don't use that language, and we're into creating new language, and I think that's what's missing in this modern life, is like we're all using like really old language. Like, remember there was William Shakespeare language? Well, there's our language now, and then there's going to be a new language. We got nothing left. No more time. Thank you.